Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Tzadik Dalet in Yebmot. We learned for 4 Shleim for Yosef Real Ben Chaim Michal and Elazar ben Reuma. Yesterday we got down about 10, 12 lines down on the page. Amalei of Mordechai or Rav Ashi. What was our question? We were questioning this idea. If a Eid Echad comes and testifies, we asked this question of Rav Sheshes. Eid Echad who testified about a Yavama. First, the question was, can she marry the Yavam? Or maybe we're concerned possibly, we have two issues here. On the one hand, we say something that's going to be revealed he's not going to lie about. On the other hand, the reason why we're matzah Eid Echad in general when it comes to an iguna, a woman whose husband went overseas, not in a Yavam case. Stam we were matzah because she's going to check things out. But maybe over here, she likes the Yavam and she won't check things out so carefully. Then we said, no, she's definitely believed. Because we say, Beferish, it says that a woman who says her husband died, that she can get married, her husband died and she can marry the Yavam, she's believed to say that. So we're not worried about that. We're worried that the other way around. When an aide comes and testifies that she's free to marry the shuk, how is that so? That let's say her husband died while still having a son or a child. Any child is good. It doesn't have to be a son. It could be a girl also. His son died her husband died having a child, and therefore she's mutter to marry shuk. Or testified that the brother-in-law, the Yavam himself, died. Is he believed there? Or do we say no? Maybe she's not going to check things carefully because she can't stand the guy. She can't stand the other. So it is believed or not. So we were trying to bring a proof in that. We went both ways. Here we have another proof. About 12 lines down on the page. Some said a woman's not believed to say that her brother-in-law died. She'll now say that she's free to marry the shuk. She's not believed. Maybe she just doesn't like the guy. She's also not believed to say that her sister, who's married to, let's say she's Rachel, and she says her sister Leah was married to Reuven, is dead so that she can marry Reuven. Remember, a man cannot marry his wife's sister as long as his wife is still alive, even if she was divorced. Achos Ishto is Achos Grushoso is the same halacha. So she's not believed to say that, presumably because maybe she likes her brother-in-law, or in this case, she likes Reuven, or in the case to say that her Yavam died, maybe she hates the Yavam. He needs the love him. She's not believed. Would be believed. So you see over here, this is a proof that an Eid Echad would be believed to say that the Yavam is dead and she's free to marry. That's what it says. Look at the Sefer. A man is not believed to say that his brother is dead so that he can marry his brother's wife. Maybe he likes her. Maybe he's not believed himself. He also is not believed to say that his own wife is dead so that he can marry her sister. Who knew? He's not believed. Is that but that one aid would be believed? Why? Let's see the Gemara's question. When a woman who is the question is she free to marry her? Is her husband dead? So Mishum Maguna, we say she shouldn't be in a guna because she shouldn't be a chained woman, won't be able to get married to anybody else because she can only marry a woman as opposed to a man can marry many women, but a woman can only be married to one man at a time. So she shouldn't be any guna. So the rabbis were makel and said that one A is believed. What are you going to say? That a man is not believed to say that his wife died or that his brother died so that he could marry her sister or his brother's wife respectively. He's not believed, but an Eid Echad, why would an Eid Echad be believed there? He's not an iguna. He's not a case of Gabish Michael and Maimer. So you can't say that it means in the Sefer, the man is not believed, but an Eid Echad would be believed. An Eid wouldn't be believed there either. So therefore, you can't be a dayak and say, oh, the woman's not believed, but the Eid Echad would be believed, or the man is not believed and Eid Echad would be believed. Eid Echad wouldn't be believed by a man, and he wouldn't be believed by a woman either. The point over here is saying when we say Eina Isha Ne'menas Lamer Meis Yivmi Shanase, when we say over there that a woman is not believed to say that her brother-in-law, her husband's brother, say her husband's dead, but now there's a question about her making Yibum to her husband's brother Shimon, right? We're talking about Leah over here. Her husband died, Reuven, and now is she believed to say that Shimon is also dead so that she can marry Lashuk? So she's not believed. What's the chiddush in that? Not that one aid would be believed, rather, Rabbi Kiva holds that if she marries Lashuk, if she marries Yankel, right? She marries Yankel when her Yavam is still around. That's Chayv Lavin, but Rabbi Kiva holds there's Mamzer there. And if there's Mamzer, it's like even though it's only a lav, but all these other Yisurim would apply to her. She's worried about Kilki, takes out the word Lazara, the Daika, she'll be careful because she knows that if she marries Yankel wrongly, because Yavam is still around, then her kids are Mamzerim and will apply all the other Yisurim that apply to her, the Yisurim of Ksub, etc. They might think that. Kamashma, we don't say that. You might say that as a Kontra Bekiva is more of a svara that she should be believed when she says, I'm free to marry Yankel. My brother-in-law, the Yavam, is dead. Why? Because if she marries Yankel and she has a child, that kid is a mamzer. So that's a more severe issue according to Bekiva. According to us, that it's not a mamzer, not so bad. Okay, so she's not believed because it's not such a big isser. It's only an isser lav without the punishment of mamzer and the surah and taking away her ksub and all the other ism that the rabbis put on. But according to Bekiva, that it's so bad, maybe she would be checking. She would check, and therefore she should be believed to say that the yavam is dead and she married the shuk. Mashma, we don't say that. That's the chiddush there. So therefore, you can't prove it from there. You still have a question.
Yeah, those cases where she's aid on her brother-in-law or aid on her sister, okay, they're all nogea there. It's not like an aid from outside came and said.
That's right.
So here,
that's our question
cases,
too. Right.
Why would
so that's so right. Good. That's right. So, yeah, so the question there is, yes, she's not believed because she's no Gabadav. That was exactly the question. But one aid maybe would be believed. An aid who's not no Gabadav would be believed. That's our question. So that was the proof. We want to say, yeah, she's no Gabadav, but the aid is not, right? And therefore she should believe. On the other hand, the only reason we believe the aid is because she's going to check carefully. That was exactly the question. When one aid comes along and says she's free to marry, the Yavam is dead, let's say, do we believe him or not? Do we say, well, why would he lie? It's going to be found out eventually if the guy's really alive. That was a question we asked yesterday that we're still dealing with. Do we say he should be believed because why would he lie? On the other hand, we say, why is one aid in general believed? Because she's going to check it. But she's no gay b'davar, and she won't check it because she hates the guy and she wants to get out of marrying the other. That's exactly our question. So we wanted to prove maybe one aid is believed. We said no. The chiddush, you can't be medayik that one aid would be believed. The point, Kuf, is that she is not believed. You might say that over here, even if she has no gay b'davar, she doesn't want to lie because her kid will be a mamzer if she marries Yankel while the Yavam is still alive. Kamashman, we don't say that. She's still not believed. She's no gay b'davar. Rava brings me another proof now. Again, the question is not about her. About her, she's not believed. She is believed to say her husband's dead. Period. That she can marry the shuk. That's what we say. Yes, she is believed to say that her husband's dead, but she's not believed to say that the Yavam is dead or that her sister is dead. Now Rava says Eid Echad would be believed the Yavama to say she can marry Lashuk, B'Kavachomer, Le'isar Karsi Tarta. If one aid comes along and says, listen, your husband's dead, you're free to marry. Okay, you're free to marry. There's no case of Yivam. Your husband's dead, you're free to marry. Is it believed? We say, yeah, because she's going to check it out. So if she's believed, if one aid is believed for a Sakaris, and certainly if he's coming along to say your Yavam is dead, meaning you can marry Lashuk, which if the Yavam is alive, it's only in a Salav, certainly should be able to believe. If an aid is believed to say your husband's dead, meaning she's an Ashes Ish, really, and he's freeing her to marry anybody, even though she might be an Ashes Ish, right? He's believed there. So certainly when the Isser involved is only a Lav, meaning she's no longer an Ashes Ish, right? Her husband's for sure dead. The question is the Yavam alive or not? The one aid comes along and says the Yavam is dead, so you're free to marry the Shuk. What's the Isser? Only a lav. It's not Ashes Ish. It's not Issachar. So if an aid is believed in Issachar, certainly Visser lav. That's Rabba's svara, and that's taka how the Rambam paskins that an aid echad is believed. Aid doesn't have to say that your husband's dead. He's also believed to say that the Yavam is dead. Amalei Merabban Rabba, who says he look at herself. If she herself says that her husband's dead, she's believed. That's the Mishnah. The Mishnah, we're going to have it later on in the Masechet. It says a woman who says my husband's dead, she's free to marry. My husband's dead, to marry the Yavam, she's free to marry the Yavam. But if she says that the Yavam is dead, she's not believed. So what do you see? You can't say Kal B'chomer because you see, look at her herself. Look at why isn't she believed to say that her brother-in-law is dead, that the Yavam is dead? Maybe she hates him. Lo daikem, she's not going to check carefully. Eid echanami. The reason why Eid echad is believed in general is we're saying because Isha daikem is because she's also going to rely on the Bezin relies on the fact that she's also going to check things out because she doesn't want to produce a mamzer. But over here, when she hates him so much, she's not going to check it out. Why isn't she believed to keep the zim the sunny lo daikem mitzvah? Eid echanami keeping the zim the sunny lo daikem mitzvah. That's his svara. However, that's the opposing svara. That's one of the rabbis told Rabbi, so you could say it both ways. However, the psak is the Eid echad is believed. Even though she's not believed to say her brother-in-law, the Yavim, is dead, or that her sister is dead because maybe she has eyes for her sister's husband, she's not believed there. But Eid echad is believed because a combination, presumably. Number one, it's going to be found out, and number two, we rely on the fact that generally she does check things out carefully. So if you have an Eid echad, like you say, she alone, she's a ge'ebedava for sure. But if you have an Eid echad who has some ne'emanis to him because he doesn't want to be found out to be a liar, plus the fact that she'll check things out, therefore an Eid echad is believed. That's how the Gemara comes. That's how the Rambam passes, even though we saw as far as both ways here. Now, if you look at the Mishnah back on Sadik Beis and Aleph, the end of the Mishnah said that Rabbi Elazar ben Nasi darshan this idea of Isha Grusha Misha v'lo Misha Eina Grusha, meaning if a woman over there they said your husband is dead, and she got engaged to somebody else. She didn't sleep with somebody else. She just got engaged to him. And then the husband showed up. So the engagement is meaningless, right? The engagement is meaningless. And she can go back to her first husband, even if the second guy gave her a get. Why? Because it obviously doesn't mean anything. It gets meaningless. Because we're darshan like this. Only a divorce only passes her on a kohen if it's a valid divorce. If a woman walks in the street, woman's married, right? Some a woman, and a guy goes and gives her a get. He's not married to her. Is she forbidden to marry a kohen? No, doesn't mean anything. So now the Gemara says, interestingly, that's a nice drasha, but there's a better one. The Blazer says, Isha Grusha me Isha. If she's divorced from her husband, then she can't marry a kohen. But not if she's divorced from somebody who's not her husband. That doesn't mean anything. Okay, so now the Gemara says, he should have expounded a pearl, and he expounded a shard, meaning he could have said a better drasha from that pasuk than the one he dashed. My bargain. So what's the pearl? The Tanya, Isha Gusha Meisha, if a woman is divorced from her husband, even if she's only divorced from her husband, and not from else, she can't marry a kohen. That's what we mean by the smell of get the pasuk. What do we mean by that? A man gets angry at his wife, and he still has some sense, and he says, "Look, I'm divorcing you from me. You're divorced from me, but you can't marry anybody else. I'm only divorcing you from me, but you can't marry anybody." Is that a valid divorce? No. A valid divorce means you're free to marry. If he says you're divorced from me, she's divorced from her husband. She's only divorced from her husband, not from anybody else, meaning she can't marry anybody else. So she's not really divorced. However, she still can't marry a kohen. What do you mean? But she's still married to him. She's still really married to him, right? So of course she can't marry him. No, let's say afterwards he dies. Afterwards he dies. Now, he said something, he had a fight, he had a heart attack, and he died. But he had given her this kind of a get. He says, you're divorced from me and not from anybody else. You're divorced from me, but you're not mutter to marry anybody else. It's not really a good get, but it's enough of a get that she's forbidden to marry a kohen subsequently, even if he dies. So he's dead now, right? So she's not married to him anymore. She still can't marry a kohen. That's the point. That's what it means here. In Mace, if he dies afterwards and she's free to marry, she still can't marry a kohen. Okay, the possible kohen. That's another drasha. Isha Grusha Meisha. Remember, in the Mishnah, Rav Elazar ben Nasi said, Isha Grusha Meisha, only if she's divorced from her husband. If she's divorced from some idiot in the street who gave her a get, that doesn't mean anything. He dashes is even better. I feel Grusha Meisha, if she's only divorced from her husband. She's only divorced from her husband, and she's not much to anybody else, but she's divorced from her husband. She can't marry a kohen anymore. Next Mishnah. Now we're going to look at the other way. A man's wife. Let's get the cases again. Since the beginning of Masechta, what are we talking about? Reuben's married to Leah, and he has a brother, Shimon. That's when his brother Shimon. Let's forget Shimon for a while. Reuben's married to Leah, but she has a sister Rachel. Leah and Rachel are sisters. Okay, and we're going to talk about this case more in the Gemara. Her sister Rachel is married to Moshe. Moshe is another guy. not related, but they're brothers-in-law, right? Reuven and Moshe are not brothers, but they're married to two sisters, so they're brothers-in-law that way, right? They're brothers-in-law that way. Reuven is married to Leah, and Moshe is married to Rachel. Okay, but let's see the Mishnah. Mishal Chishta says his wife went overseas. Leah went overseas. We're talking about Reuven. Reuven's wife Leah went overseas. Bo Barmel, they told him, Mesa Ishtecha, your wife died. Your wife died. Vinasa Sachosa, and he married her sister. Wait a minute, her sister was single at this point. Okay, we're not talking, he wasn't married to Moshe yet. We'll see that in the Gemara. Married her sister. He's not allowed to marry his sister if he's married to Leah, but they said Leah's dead. So he married her sister. Then Leah showed up. Now Leah's real wife showed up. So the marriage to Rachel is no marriage, right? Because the Kushan's not chal. If he's married to Leah, he might sleep with Rachel. That's an Issur Koros, but not married. But now his wife came back. Well, can he take his wife back? Why not? Okay. In the case where the husband went overseas and he was reported dead, and she remarried, and he comes back now. What's the rule we said before? She's got to leave both marriages. She has an adulterer. She has to leave both marriages. We constant her, even though it was b'shogeg, she should have checked more carefully. We said you have to leave marriage. In this case, no. Things are different. Men and women are different. So he said, Leah's allowed to go back to him. Obviously, Rachel's forbidden to him, right? We let them. Also, he wasn't really married to Rachel, right? So let's say she has other relatives, her daughter. Let's say one day, can he marry Rachel's daughter? A man can't marry a woman and her daughter or a woman and her mother, but over here he wasn't really married to Rachel. It was a mistake. So he's allowed to marry her. And Rachel is allowed to marry Reuven's family. Listen to this even more. If Leah now dies, now he lived with Rachel be'isser, but they told him Leah was dead. They told him was dead. Now let's say Leah died. Now he can marry Rachel again, because what he did really wasn't that. He made a mistake. Let's say again the same thing happened. They told Reuven that your wife Leah is dead. Married her sister. Wait a minute. She is dead now, but she wasn't dead when you married her sister Rachel. Very simple. If the child that he had with Rachel while he was still married to Leah, they had a child, that kid's a mamzer. He can't marry Achos Ishto. But the child that he has now, after Leah died, that's not a mamzer. Rabbi Yossi Omer, and Rabbi Yossi has a difficult memory that we don't understand at this point. We'll see it on the Gemara tomorrow. Rabbi Yossi Omer, if he ruins another guy from marrying, then it ruins him too. In other words, if he ruins somebody else's marriage, then he ruins his marriage. If he didn't ruin somebody else's, it doesn't possible. We can't understand this Gemara right now because we don't have the full Gemara. We'll see that the Gemara tomorrow. We'll explain Rabbi Yossi. Even though we don't pass Rabbi Yossi, but we'll explain Rabbi Yossi tomorrow. It says the Gemara now. So listen carefully. What's the chiddush over here? Okay, if there were a woman here, say it's not fair. If a man, right? If a woman slept with another man after her husband was reported dead, so she can't stay married to him. She can't stay married to either one. But the other way, if the wife went overseas and she was reported dead, and he married her sister illegally married her sister, and now she comes back, the wife comes back, he could take the wife back. Listen to this, it's even more than that. Now we're talking about a case where Rachel wasn't a single woman, she was married to Moshe. Moshe and Reuven are not blood relatives, they are simply brothers-in-law married to two sisters. Because let's say this happened. Leah went overseas, and so did Moshe. Moshe was married to her sister. They didn't go together. They didn't sleep in the same room. They happened to both make overseas trips. His wife, Reuven's wife, and his wife's sister's husband both went overseas. They both went overseas in Bidasiyam, and they were both reported dead. Dahani Nasum the Kamitsra Ashes Giso Agiso. Now what happened over here? They were both reported dead. So what happened? Reuven now married Rachel. Now look at it from Rachel's point of view. She's alive, but her husband was reported dead. Moshe was reported dead. So she married Reuven. But if she marries somebody wrongly, what's the rule? She can't go back to her husband. So when Reuven married Rachel now illegally, the commits Reishis Gisa Giso. Rachel can't go marry to her husband Moshe. Afiluacha Eishis Giso Asiro. The wife of his brother-in-law, meaning his wife's sister Rachel, is also to go back to Moshe. Ishto Shari, but Leah can go back to Reuven. Is that fair? That's the halacha, right? Ishto Shari. But we don't say Mitoshin Esra Eishis Gisa Giso. We don't say since Rachel is forbidden to go back to her husband Moshe, Teaser Ishto Love, Leah should also be to go back to Reuven. We don't say that. Okay, that's the pshat in the Mishnah. In other words, the Mishnah is saying that if Reuven married Rachel after Leah was reported dead, and then Leah showed up, he can take her back, even though he slept with Rachel, and Rachel would be now usher to her husband if he was reported dead, and it turned out he was alive. Still, Leah can go back. Our Mishnah doesn't go like Rabbi Kiva. Why? Our Mishnah says he can go back. Why? What's the issue over here? Again, what happened? Reuven was married to Leah, and her sister Rachel was married to Moshe. And Leah and Moshe both went overseas and they reported dead and they came back. We say over here that Leah can go back to Reuven. What's the relationship with Reuven and Rachel? He married her illegally. Does he have to give her a get? Presumably not, because for everybody else, she was married married to her brother. She was married to Reuven. Leah was married to Reuven, and therefore, when he married Rachel mistakenly, let's call it illegally, mistakenly, it's not a marriage because he was still married to her. So everybody knows that. So would Reuven have to give Rachel now a get? No, presumably. However, we're going to assume now that Rabbi Kiva says he does have to give her a get. So Harmish doesn't go like Rabbi Kiva. Why do Rabbi Kiva? His own wife now, Leah, Reuben's own wife Leah is achos kushaso because he has to give Rachel a get. And achos kushaso, we said, is like achos ishto. As long as she's alive, can't marry her. So he has to give her it. Now, why does he have to give her a get? The Rabbi Kiva have lechos kushaso. The Tanya, kol arayas sha'amru z'gezer sha'amru. All the arayas we talk about ain't tzrichim a get. In other words, if a man sleeps with his sister, he doesn't have to give her a get. If he sleeps with his mother's sister, doesn't have to give her a get. It's forbidden. We learned before, if a married woman got married al pi bezdin, one day he comes and says that her husband's dead, she married al pi bezdin, you have to give her a get because she didn't check carefully. Rabbi Kiva Mosif, it's hard to understand. Rabbi Kiva says, even if he married his brother's wife, even by mistake, thought that his brother was dead, and then his brother showed up, he has to give her a get. And achos isha, this case, where he thought that his wife was dead and he married her sister, he has to give her a get now. And the wife showed up, he has to give her a get. Why? It's hard to understand. Why does he have to get? Everybody knows that it's not a marriage, right? Just like marrying your sister, marrying your mother's sister. These things everybody knows it's forbidden. Why would you need a get? Okay, we'll see. It says more, okay. Kiva, Rabbi Kiva, boy gets, since Rabbi Kiva says he need to get there, and Mela, his own wife is also. Our Mishnah says that the wife Leah can go back to Reuven, right? But Rabbi Kiva says no. Rabbi Kiva says since Reuven has to give Rachel a get now, so his own wife now becomes a chos kushaso, is also to him. Rabbi Kiva, boy get, Mela Yisrael Leah to have a chos kushaso. Says the Gemara, but this doesn't make sense. Didn't we understand that Rabbi Kiva didn't say in all cases he has to give Rachel a get? What's the case? Listen to this carefully. It's not speaking about where there was a real marriage involved. The first case of Eishach is speaking about what happened. Reuben had a brother Shimon. Okay, Shimon got engaged to, let's say, Rachel. Got engaged to a girl Rachel. Went overseas. When he heard that Shimon died, so he married her. I think it was Yibam. That means people will say, no. Yes, now when he shows up again, maybe there was in Kedushin, you can make a Tanai. You could say, listen, I'm giving you Harev Mekadesh Lial tonight that so and so, such and such, that the stock market goes up tomorrow. Okay? Then, and if the stock market doesn't go up tomorrow, the Kedushin is not chal. So people might say, oh, you know what? When Reuven married Shimon's wife, thinking that Shimon was dead, maybe Shimon had only been engaged to her on a condition, the condition wasn't fulfilled, and therefore Reuben really could marry Shimon's wife, even if Shimon was alive, but because Shimon's maybe marriage wasn't a marriage, it was only a kedushin al tanai, and therefore he needs a get now. And when Reuben married her, he really married her because his brother was not married to her. He had only given her engagement on a condition, right? And therefore, that's why you have to give her a get, because people will think it was a marriage. It's not like a case where a man marries his sister and say, well, maybe it's a good marriage. It can't be a good marriage. It's a sister, or it's his mother's sister, something which is forbidden in all cases. Everybody knows that's not a marriage. Over here, though, when Reuben married Shimon's wife, thinking that Shimon was dead, people might be talking about a case where Shimon was only engaged to her. And maybe the engagement was broken off or was given on condition. The condition wasn't fulfilled. Therefore, Reuben was allowed to marry her. And now when Shimon shows up, you know what? And she goes back to Shimon, maybe Reuben has to give her a get. Similarly, the case of Reuben and Leah is not when Reuben and Leah were married. Reuben and Leah were engaged. And Leah went overseas and she was reported dead. Now he marries Rachel, her sister, and Ahmed ben Asach, he married her sister. People say, maybe he was engaged to Leah on condition. The condition wasn't fulfilled. And when he married Rachel, the sister, after Leah was reported dead, maybe it was legitimate marriage because he wasn't really engaged to Leah at all. Rav Shapiro it was a good marriage, and therefore he has to give her a get. That's where Rabbi Kiva says you need a get in a case of Eishasach or a Chosisha, where there's a possibility that it was a good marriage, right? But if they're actually married, there's no such thing as a Tanai Nesuin. When a person gets married, he gets married. There's no such thing as a condition. He married her at Bia with her all tonight. It doesn't work that way. So everybody, Rashi says, nobody does that. Nobody does that. Nesuin, nobody does that. Rashi says, Ela ben Nesuin, right in the middle of the page. Everybody knows Mason be lost makes us and a klum. So that everybody knows. So even Rabbi Kiva would not say that you have to give a get in this case, and therefore Mishnah could go like Rabbi Kiva. When we say that Reuben could take Leah back after Leah was reported dead, and he married Rachel, and now Leah shows up. So Rachel's marriage was nothing. It was just a mistake for sure, because since he was married to Leah, everybody knows that when he married Rachel, it was a mistake, and there's no get necessary. It could even go like Rabbi Kiva. Says the Gemara now, okay, so therefore that was a mistake. It could be like you. I'm a little Rabbi Kiva. If a Mishnah goes like Rabbi Kiva, why did it only tell you this case? It told you a case. What was the case? Reuben's wife Leah went overseas. Leave aside Moshe and Rachel, that Moshe was married. We just said another case here. We'll come back to Rav Yosef tomorrow. We're going to talk about Moshe again tomorrow. But just take a simple case. He was married to Leah. Leah went overseas. She was reported dead. He married her sister. Then Leah shows up. He could take Leah back. Why talk about her sister? Why not her mother? Why not her mother? Why does it say her mother, his mother-in-law, meaning Leah's mother? The issue is, if a man marries a woman and then he takes her mother or her grandmother, right? Takes her too, they're chayiv sreifa. That's the rule. Not his wife. His wife married legitimately. She's an innocent party over here, right? Pardon? She's an innocent party, but it's Mrs. Robinson over here, right? Right? If it's the mother-in-law, the mother, the sreifa. But Rabbi Kiva holds it's only forbidden the mother-in-law if the wife is still around. If the wife died, you can marry your mother, according to Rabbi Kiva. The Tanya, Pasuk says, Isha shikach es Isha ves ima, says, right? But Yisrofu, Oso ves hen. What does it mean, Oso ves hen? Him and them. What do you mean them? Not the wife. The wife didn't do anything wrong. Oso ves achas men divrei. Shmuel says, es hen means one in Greek. So therefore, it means, the mother-in-law. So that's one of them. Rabbi Kiva says, Obes Shtein, both of them. What does it mean, Shtein? What does it mean, both of them? So it means, according to Rabbi Kiva, in one shot, Rabbi Kiva it means the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother. That if he took both of them, they're both all chayiv mises. There's no machlokus over here. Rabbi Shmuel both agree that if he slept with the mother-in-law, they're chayiv streifa, and if he slept with the mother-in-law's mother, there's also chayiv streifa. The question is, do you learn it from the pasuk about Oso ves hen? Rabbi Shmuel says Oso ves hen means the mother-in-law, and you learn it from Xavier Shavuot. Rashi brings down that it also means the mother-in-law's mother. According to Abaye, No, the pasuk also besen means both of them, the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother. That's all according to Bible. The pasuk is speaking about one, just the mother-in-law. Rekiva is referring to mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother. In both those cases, they're chayiv sreifa. So shopper, okay, fine. There's no question over here. We're assuming now, according to Giva, the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother's also whether the wife is alive or dead. So then there's no issue. There's no question over here. Rava says the nafkamina is the mother-in-law after death, meaning this. Rava says the pshat in the pasuk was some machlokas Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Shmuel says also ves achas mehen. Either one of them. You slept with the mother-in-law, okay, you're chayiv sreifa for that. Even if her daughter is dead. Rabbi Kiva says no. Also as shtayan, you're only also to live with the mother-in-law if they're both alive, meaning your wife and her mother are alive. Then there's an issur on them. Then the issur is then you're chayiv sreifa if you sleep with the mother. But if your wife died, there's no issur. You're not chayiv sreifa if you slept with the mother-in-law. So according to Rabbi Kiva, that's a pshat in Rabbi Kiva because of Eshtein, only if they're both alive. So according to Bai, it's good, but according to way Rava learns pshat in the machlokas, Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel, what's the machlokas? Rabbi Shmuel says you're chayiv on the mother-in-law whether the wife, her daughter is alive or dead. But according to Rabbi Kiva, you're only chayiv sreifa on the mother-in-law if the daughter, your wife, is alive. Listen, say chamosa. Why talk about if the Mishnah say our Mishnah really could be Rabbi Kiva? Because Rabbi Kiva is only talking about that you need to get to Rachel in a case where they were engaged, not where they were married. In our case, our Mishnah is talking about where they're married. But if it would be Rabbi Kiva, and therefore the Mishnah called like Rabbi Kiva, if the Mishnah is Rabbi Kiva, why talk about if Leah died and he married her sister? Why not marry the mother? If you marry this, if Leah died, you can really marry the mother too. No, I'm like no. All the drasha and Rabbi Kiva, according to the way Rabbi learns, is that if your wife died and you slept with her mother, there's no chiv of sreifa, but it's still usher. Whereas your wife's sister, if your wife died, you're allowed to marry your sister. As we said many times throughout history, that was a common thing. A wife died in childbirth. Who better would take care of the children and give them a loving household? Her sister. It was a very common thing. Many people know cases of where a wife died in childbirth or whatever, and he married her sister. It was a very common thing. It's mutter to do. So, but that's mutter. So that's why the Mishnah talked about that case where he married the sister. So now the Gemara asks a very simple question. I understand, but why shouldn't Reuben be usher to marry Leah? Because he slept with her sister. Just like the case where a husband was thought to be dead and she married somebody else, and we say it's forbidden. Woman whose husband went overseas and is reported dead, and then he showed up, we say what? She can't obviously stay with the adulterer, and she can't stay with her husband either. You're about to have to give back. This is lo dummy. Ishto, Yisak comes at Ishto, the B'meizer Asira. If a woman commits adultery on purpose, she's also minat Torah, right? That's the case of a sota. So b'shogeg goes a rabbanon. The rabbanon goes b'shogeg because she didn't check carefully. Achos isha the b'meizer lo asira. Listen to this. If a man on purpose commits adultery with his wife's sister, she's, let's say, single. Not talking about age. She's even a single woman. Man's married to Leah, and he slept with Rachel on purpose. Did a terrible thing. It's chayiv karas. The shogeg chayiv a carbon, but it's not. Aval achos isha the b'meizer lo asira. A midaraisa, but that doesn't forbid him to stay married to Leah. If a woman commits adultery with any man on purpose, she can't stay with her husband. She's got to leave the marriage. Whereas if a man commits adultery, even in a form where he married her sister, where it's karas, not stam a pnuya, not stam that he went to a prostitute, but he committed adultery in a case with her sister, committed adultery with her, he's not also to marry her. Minat Torah, b'shogeg lo gazer rabbanan. Since it was a shogeg, it was a mistake over here. She was reported dead. They weren't gazer rabbanan. Umanon de lo asira. How do we know that? How do we know that his wife is not usher to him if he slept with her sister? The Tanya Oso, right? But says v'shachav isha sab in the case of Sota. We just had it last week's parsha, right? V'shachav isha osa osa shchiva osa. Only by her sleeping around forbids her. In other words, if she committed adultery on purpose, where that forbids her from marrying her husband, only if she commits adultery, that shchiva asks her and her husband, that union asks her and her husband. But shchivas achosa, but if her sister slept with him, doesn't answer her. Shiachal, I might think v'lo din as a kal v'chomer. Ma makom shabo al isser kal. Listen to this. Marach, where what? Where you committed adultery in a regular Eishes Ish. Why is that called Isser Kal? Because in a regular case of Eishes Ish, she could be mutter to him one day, all day get. A man commits adultery with a married woman. One day he could marry that woman if her husband divorces her. That's called Isser Kal. Still Neser Oser, the one who, the adulterer, is forbidden from marrying her forever. Malkum Shabal Isser Chomer, where you collect with it Isser Chomer, where what? Where it's more common because you can never sleep with your wife's sister as long as your wife is alive in her lifetime. In the case of an adulterer, you might be able to marry that woman if her husband divorces her. If he had he not slept with her, right? Had he not slept with her, he would, and therefore we say that the adulterer is also forever, even though it's an Isser Kal, because eventually that woman might become mutter to him if her husband during his lifetime while he if he gives her a divorce. But over here, in marrying your wife, if you sleep with your wife's sister, where it's never permitted while your wife is alive, never. Even if you divorce your wife, never permitted to marry Shabal Yisr Chomer and Adin Shnesser also. So certainly the Oser, the adulterer, Reuven should be Oser, and therefore you have a pasuk to say, no, Kamash. As I would say that Mekal v'Chomer, if a man sleeps with his wife's sister, he shouldn't be allowed to stay married to his wife. Kamashma on the pasuk, Osa, only if she sleeps around does that aser on her husband. But if her sister slept with her husband, that doesn't forbid her husband from staying married to her. All right, we'll pick him here tomorrow. Why do
you say never in the case of the married woman?
But never. In the case of the married woman, it's not never. In the case of the married, look at Rashi. Take a look at Rashi. Look at Rashi.
I'm sorry, I said it wrong. I understand. Why? My question is really the second one.
The second, because the sister can never marry in her lifetime. In her lifetime, in her lifetime. That's the difference. That's why it's called right. Yes, it's in her lifetime. So it means in her lifetime. Makom Shabal Yisr Chomer could go on a chosish she'ishta oseres as a chosa kol yameho during her life. The difference is that it's a slight difference, right? That the Eishes Ish could be mutter in the husband's lifetime, right? If he divorced her, and here, it's the one that you're wronging, so to speak, right? The one you're wronging is, in the case of Eishes Ish, could be mutter in his lifetime. In the case of a chos isha, is never mutter in her lifetime, your wife's lifetime. That's why it's called Isser Chomer. So that's a little bit of a kal v'chomer, indicating that if Reuven slept with his wife's sister, his wife should be also to him. Mashma on the pasuk, no, only oso shchiva oso ain't shchiva sachosa oso. All right, we'll see it tomorrow.